So I was enjoying the moment. Donald Trump is relatable. He's likable. Regular people who eat at McDonald's liked him. And I think that's why people on the left are so upset. I do find it interesting, though, that Kamala Harris has gotten a pass for saying she's worked at McDonald's, and Donald Trump is being slammed for doubting it. I saw a headline that said Donald Trump, without evidence, says that Kamala Harris didn't work at McDonald's.
Trump hasn't demonstrated in any way whatsoever. Trump has not brought forward any evidence to refute. No, she doesn't have to go back. I don't have proof of every job I worked. What was it, in high school or college?
What's happening, everybody? On a recent episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored, a panel of guests that included Larry Elder and Dave Rubin discussed Donald Trump's campaign event that had him working at McDonald's. After listening to the liberal panelists, including a woke Kamala Harris fanboy, do everything they could to put down the universally well-received event and somehow steer the conversation to raising the minimum wage, Larry Elder calmly dismantled their argument with, surprise, surprise, facts and data. That said, let's watch Larry Elder shut down a leftist soy boy. Let's go.
Did by just going to McDonald's and getting a job there for the day, albeit it was all staged, obviously, he was attaching himself to probably the most inclusive American iconic company imaginable. You know, there are 13,500 McDonald's in America alone. I think I read that 7.5% of the population of the United States have a McDonald's meal once a year, at least, which is a staggering statistic. And it's a real piece of Americana. It represents entrepreneurism in the sense that, you know, everyone can afford a McDonald's pretty much. And pretty much everyone has a shot if they want it, of running a McDonald's franchise. So it's a kind of brilliant place for Trump to attach himself to. And I just thought his whole interaction with the staff, with the customers and so on, was a brilliant, brilliant stunt. What did you think?
Oh, it was a win across the board in a way that Donald Trump only can get those wins. I mean, that moment where the employee says, you know, I'm ordinary, and he says, no, you're not ordinary, that's Trump being Trump. I mean, not only is McDonald's just a win because everybody's had it and it's going to trigger a certain amount of the MSNBC types because he actually didn't technically get a job and it's a stunt. What it shows is that he really is the man of the people. And it is bizarre, I would say, that an orange man with crazy hair who's a billionaire is more authentic and more real and more of a man of the people than any of the people on the other side who purport to be for the people but actually are the elites. So this is only a win. You could see the absolute joy of all of the people who were showing up at the line, the drive-through line. You could see the joy of the employees, and you could see the joy in Trump. You know, Trump loves to work more than anything else. Trump loves work. He loves success. I genuinely think he liked doing that. And I don't know, somehow they got an apron that fit perfectly, and it worked with his red tie, and his hair is as golden as the French fries. I think this thing was just a win and a win and a win.
Yeah, and actually you can tell how big a win it was just by how much whining is going on from the Dems afterwards. Amisha,
exactly.
You were laughing at some of Dave's claims there. Did you not embrace the full joy of the Donald at McDonald's?
No, absolutely not. I don't think that a guy who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth who chooses a day to cosplay as a McDonald's employee is something we should be celebrating.
Why
These
not?
are people who've been fighting to have minimum wage. These are people who are fighting to have minimum wage increases, which the Republican Party and Donald Trump is against. This is not a cosplay moment. I didn't see this as any different than I saw it as when Gwyneth Paltrow, the famous actress, decided she was going to go on food stamps for a week. It is a ploy, and in many cases, it's making fun of the very individuals who have to live off of these minimum wages every day.
Who's he making fun of?
Who cannot afford childcare,
No,
who cannot afford childcare, who cannot afford cars in many cases, who are having a hard time paying their rent.
Hang on.
Can I finish?
Well, I want to make the point
Can
about,
I finish?
I want
Because
to
I was
react to
making
what
a
you
point.
just said.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
we're talking about someone who does not agree with raising minimum wage. We're talking about a party that has not supported reducing child poverty rates. They did not support extended child tax credits. This is a party that does not care about not only sustaining the middle class, but obviously people who are earning poverty wages.
Hey, if you like watching videos like this one, like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Let's get back to the video.
A cape, he donned an apron, and now he is supposed to be someone who people who are, you know, living paycheck to paycheck are supposed to be able to relate to.
I think you might be
I don't
slightly...
think so.
I think you're sort of overthinking this. You remind me a little bit of Michael Bloomberg, who was sat in front of Trump at the Al Smith dinner the other day, and for 28 minutes managed not to crack any facial expression whatsoever, even as Trump was rattling off a series of indisputably hilarious zingers. And I think it takes a lot of real effort to refuse.
Maybe he didn't find them funny.
Well, it just makes me laugh that Kamala Harris is all about finding the joy in life. There you've got Trump cracking funny jokes, and no one on your side wants to laugh, and we'll come to that in a bit.
I come from a family where I was raised on food stamps. I come from a family where people work minimum wage jobs. They don't get to dawn for an hour or so to get photo ops and walk away. That's not cool.
I'm just saying, if you can't watch Donald Trump frying fries in a McDonald's when he's never been seen cooking a thing in his entire life, and then serving it to punters as they turn up in cars, if you can't crack a smile and feel what Kamala would describe as the joy of that moment, there's something very humorous about you, isn't it?
Yeah.
I promise we're going to get to Larry Elder dismantling this little soy boy on the far right here in a second. But doesn't even watching the short exchange we watch embody the left and the way they react to Donald Trump? This was unquestionably a great event. The employees enjoyed it. The customers enjoyed it. I really have not heard, average everyday person that says, "Oh, that was stupid. I hate that guy." I've just seen it put a smile on people's faces. But the anger with which this woman is talking about the event, and then she tries to turn it into Donald Trump can't relate to everyday people. This shows the ridiculous liberal elite bubble that they're all in. That's why we like him. And based on the things he does, we feel like he can relate to the everyday working person. Yeah, he has a lot of money. He was raised with money and started his career off with money. But he's a businessman. He's worked with people from all walks of life throughout his life. And I think he knows how to connect with the American people. This just angers the left and the media so badly because in their little worlds, everyone's voting for Kamala. So they can't believe that anyone would be so stupid to fall for Donald Trump's ridiculous PR stunt. It shows they just don't get it. They should treat these stories the same way they treat when a Republican does something unequivocally good or a Democrat does something unequivocally bad. They should just not cover it. Then they don't have to lie about it. They don't have to fake outrage. But when something's an obvious win for the right, just take the L. And when you complain and whine about it and look like angry people for no reason, your true colors show and you're emphasizing your loss to everybody watching. Anyway, we're going to let Larry Elder cook here and I'll wrap up with some closing comments. Let's get back to it.
But it's
about you, isn't it?
Yeah. It's MAGA that keeps getting upset.
I'm thankful that McDonald's hires felons because they do that in reality as well.
Okay, let me bring in Luke. You want to get in?
Yeah. Well, I will say that MAGA has been repeatedly expressing that they're upset that Kamala is having these fun moments. Oh, she's laughing weird, or stop dancing, there's serious problems. So there's a little bit of hypocrisy there, but I will say this McDonald's thing is the perfect example of how Trump gets away with what he does, because a bunch of people in the media play right into what he's doing, which I agree, a fun little photo op at McDonald's. A lot of people are going to find that likable, ignoring the actual substance, which is he gets asked about the minimum wage. He can't answer it because on policy, he's a failure. So he has to rely on these sorts of stunts to get people to like him. And the media finds it so fascinating. So they forget days before the election what really matters.
But to be clear, you did find it, just to be clear, you just said you found him likable.
I don't find him super likable, but I understand why a photo shoot like this appeals to people. That's exactly what he's trying to do. Distract from the fact that days before an election, he's promising to go after his political enemies with this enemies from within sort of comment. Distract from the fact that he's the most anti-democratic presidential candidate we've seen in
let me bring in
American politics. Distract from the fact that hundreds of economists are saying that Trump's plan would harm the economy.
Okay, let me bring in Larry. Larry, your response to this.
Well, you're talking to somebody whose father here is used to clean toilets for a living, save his nickels and dimes, and started a cafe where he sold hamburgers. So I was enjoying the moment. Donald Trump is relatable. He's likable. Regular people who eat at McDonald's liked him. And I think that's why people on the left are so upset. I do find it interesting, though, that Kamala Harris has gotten a pass for saying she's worked at McDonald's, and Donald Trump is being slammed for doubting it. I saw a headline that said Donald Trump, without evidence, says
there's no evidence she worked there.
At McDonald's.
Trump hasn't demonstrated in any way whatsoever. Trump has not brought forward any evidence to refute. No, she doesn't have to go back. I don't have proof of every job I worked. What was it, in high school or college? And she's not going to waste time right before.
But Luke, you don't think it's odd? Luke,
this is what Trump gets to do, though. This is what Trump gets to do, though. He gets to baselessly lie about something.
Luke, do you not think it's strange that she's been so specific? She's named the branch that she worked at. She's named the summer that she worked there, 1983. And she said she was working on the ice cream stand, the French fry stand, on reception. She was there for weeks on end throughout one summer. And not a single human being that came across her, either working with her or a customer or anything, has
I haven't seen a person come out and say,
has any memory of this person who is now potentially about to become president of the United States. I'm just smelling a rat here, and it's not a very pleasant smelling rat.
Do you remember the names and the faces of people who have served you at McDonald's? I can tell you,
if I was running for British Prime Minister,
especially from 30 plus years ago.
Here's my response. If I was running for British Prime Minister right now, I can guarantee I did some terrible jobs in my time. I wish I'd been at McDonald's. It sounds a great gig, but I did some awful stuff. I shoveled mushroom manure one summer. All the people that did it with me would remember, and they would all pop up and they'd talk about it. I mean, Dave Rubin, it just stretches credulity that here we are. She's been saying this for several years now. Nobody can remember her ever being in McDonald's, Dave.
Well, sure, but why don't we do something a little more substantive, whether than she's lying or not about her resume? I mean, this is also a woman who's basically being installed as president as far as the Democrats are concerned, so they're not that concerned with resumes. What I'd rather talk about for a moment, since two of the guests mentioned minimum wage, is that the market should dictate what minimum wage is. If you want to artificially tell the McDonald's how much they have to pay people, so it should be $25 an hour, $30 an hour, whatever you want to decide it should be, well, congratulations, McDonald's will then bring in iPads, which they are doing at airports and they're doing at restaurants all over the country right now, and then nobody will have a job. So the market dictates that. That's not Donald Trump being mean. That's not him hating people from lower economic classes or anything else. But certain jobs, only the market dictates how much they're worth. So unless you want 15 iPads in every McDonald's and one guy who comes in once a month who will probably be paid $20 an hour to repair those iPads or get the grease off them, you're going to fire an awful lot of people by telling the government that it should tell stores how much they should pay their employees.
Let me just say one thing before we leave this topic about the minimum wage. I'm in California. We just jacked up the minimum wage from $16 to $20 an hour. And those of us who oppose that said that it's going to cost jobs. The day the bill was signed, even before it went into effect, 1,200 drivers for Pizza Hut were laid off. Since then, 10,500 fast food workers have lost their jobs, all because of this. The very people that people on the left purport to care about, little people that work at McDonald's, lost their jobs. Dave Rubin is right. The private sector should determine the price of labor. When you interfere with that, you're going to have all sorts of problems, including a greater incentive to automate.
Donald Trump hasn't provided any proof that Kamala Harris didn't work at McDonald's. Is the burden of proof on Donald Trump? He's only been saying what all of us know. This is most likely a lie. What reason does McDonald's have to lie about this? Is it a big conspiracy, big McDonald's conspiracy? Is that the October surprise? Any big corporation would love to say, yeah, a candidate for president of the United States worked here. Look where you can start out and look what you can become. That's a pretty good story. That's a pretty good pitch for working at McDonald's. And again, I've got to point out the anger of the liberal panelists there, right? They're getting fired up and worked up over a McDonald's campaign event because you know what? They have nothing else to talk about. They can't talk about anything positive with Kamala. They can't talk about policies of hers. And then the one little weasel on the far right tried to argue that Donald Trump is doing these things because he can't articulate his policies. That's a laugh. When you're backing a candidate that just did a town hall that arguably and I'm saying this literally, could be the worst town hall in the history of presidential politics. She avoided every single question. And I'm not a big fan, but I will give it to Anderson Cooper. He asked her questions and follow-up questions. And with every question, her answer went straight to, yeah, but Trump did this. Yeah, but Trump's bad. Even the mainstream liberal media couldn't defend her performance. It was that bad. They spin everything. There was nothing to spin. It was so bad. But my point is, her entire campaign has zero substance, and it hasn't. And she thought hiding in the basement for a long time and doing softball interviews would get her through the finish line. But as she drops in the polls more and more every single day, she's trying to play catch up right now and do some substantive interviews, and it ain't working. And finally, I don't need to tell you all this. They just said on there, just to recap, I can't even believe we're having the conversation about raising the minimum wage. You heard Larry Elder. They tried it in California. They tried the experiment against everyone with a brain's better judgment. And what does it do? It lays off workers. It encourages automation. I'll say it like this. If you have a set amount of money as a small business owner to pay your 8 employees, and the government tells you you have to raise minimum wage to 20%, well, there's 2 options. You can pay them all the new minimum wage. Now your overhead has gone up. So what do you have to do? Increase prices. Or if that set amount of money is all you have to pay your employees, then the only other lever you can pull is to lay people off. So people either lose jobs or the cost of goods goes up. It's not rocket science. And look, every minute of every day, we're becoming more and more advanced. So big corporations like McDonald's with deep pockets will look at things like automation. He was mentioning iPads. They can go to automation. I think they do it in Japan already to serve the food. Take your order. Do the whole thing. And like he said, then you pay somebody $20 an hour just to maintain the equipment. So the 2 leftist guests on there had an opportunity, a platform to talk to the world, make, last minute pitches for their candidate. And we argued about raising minimum wage, which is kind of a dead issue, except for brain dead liberals. And all they did was get angry at Donald Trump and try to attack him about staging a campaign event at McDonald's. They are running out of stuff, guys. And trust me, I'm not getting complacent. I just have to comment on what I see. It seems like they're really struggling. And everything, if you've been following Kamala at all, she's struggling too. So I still think everyone needs to act as if Trump is way down in the polls and do everything they can to make sure we get this thing over the finish line. But I think things are pointing in a good direction. If you want to watch more videos of lefties getting schooled, then click on one of the 2 boxes that just popped up on the screen. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you on the next one.